Well, let's talk about the convention and the presidential race. Illinois Democratic Senator Tammy Duckworth joins us tonight. Senator, thanks for the time.
It's good to be on, Brett. How are you?
I'm great. 4 years ago, you spoke at the DNC convention. Here's just a piece of what you said.
This is the greatest nation on earth, a nation that so many are willing to die defending. A nation that says, if you keep working hard, we won't abandon you. Of course, in Donald Trump's America, if you get knocked down, you stay down.
It's 4 years later, Senator. Your take on what you said there in the wake of the Donald Trump administration and what you look for tonight.
Well, I think I was very accurate in predicting what Donald Trump would do to this country, and he's proven that in these last 4 years. I'll just give you his response to now there being over 170,000 dead Americans. It is what it is, our president says. And frankly, that's not acceptable. There's a lot of hard work in front of us, and we can all come together and do this and fight this and recover the America the way she needs to be.
Do you think a Democratic president would not have shut down the country and the economy somehow would have been different under a Democratic administration?
Well, I think that a Democratic president would not have ignored the scientists and said, as our current president said way back at the beginning in February, where he said, you know what, this pandemic is just going to disappear magically. It'll be gone by April, and not listen to the scientists and actually not handle the pandemic the way this president has completely mishandled it. He still hasn't even taken charge of making sure that everybody has enough PPE, for crying out loud. There's no way to fully open the economy unless there's widespread testing. We need to know who is sick, when they're sick, and where they are so that they don't spread it to other people. Opening up the economy, opening up our schools.
I want to talk about a couple of other things. One thing that was not brought up last night and the first night of the DNC was the increased violence in many cities across the country, including the city that you know very well, Chicago. Shootings there up 40% year over year, as is the murder rate. It's a big concern. July was the deadliest, most violent month in 28 years in Chicago. Are you concerned about this, and are Democrats going to talk about it?
I am deeply concerned about this. You know, it's part of the conversations that Democrats have been having about the need to invest more in community services. We have kids who are joining gangs when they're as young as 8, 9, 10 years old, but that's because we've cut funding for after-school programs. We've cut funding to our public schools. We've cut social services to the bone so that there are no more safety nets for our kids. And if we want to fight violence, then we need to get into the communities and work with the communities to fight the violence. And we also need some sensible gun laws like universal background check, which, by the way, 95% of all Americans support universal background checks.
Sure. But these police associations, including the International Union of Police Associations, has endorsed Donald Trump. Do you think any police officers are voting for Joe Biden? And what about these efforts to defund or move funding from police organizations? Does that hinder the effort in some place like Chicago?
Well, I don't accept moving funding from police forces. What I support is putting more funding into community service programs. Our cops have a hard job, and they do it every single day. But the fact of the matter is, if you're in Chicago and you have somebody in your family that's having, say, an overdose in the opioid crisis, or is having a mental health problem, and you pick up the phone and you call 911, because of all of the cuts to social service programs, the person who comes to your door is going to be a police officer, and you're not going to get the kind of services that you need from a police officer. We need to allow our police officers to do their jobs of fighting crime.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I think Republicans would argue that it's how these different cities are run or being run. That's what the president's saying. I want to ask about one of the speakers tonight, Senator, and that is former President Bill Clinton. There's an article out by leftleaning Slate.com in which it says he should not be speaking tonight. Obsolescence comes from us all in a variety of ways, it says, and it has come for Clinton, a man whose irrelevance to the present moment is as extraordinary as his connection to the party remains embarrassing. But even when it comes to substance, we've already heard all Bill Clinton has to say. His message has not improved with time. His past actions, particularly his sexual misconduct, look worse in retrospect, not better. The country is gasping for leadership, for strategies, for a pathway out of disaster. All of this at a moment this particular ex-president is ill-equipped to address. That is left-leaning Slate.com. Your reaction to that, Senator?
Well, I'll let Bill Clinton defend himself, and I'll let Bill Clinton make his remarks tonight. What I can tell you, Brett, is that the Democratic Party is a big tent that everybody is welcome to come under, who truly loves America and wants to work on things like fighting this pandemic, like putting money into our public schools so our kids can get back to school, like investing in small businesses, like investing in parts of the country that need help. You know, in Illinois, we have a lot of coal mines. My Marshall Plan for coal country is something that I'm working on. The Democratic Party is a big tent, and all sorts of folks fit underneath it. And I welcome anyone who truly wants to come and work to solve the problems we have in this country. And if you want to join Donald Trump, I believe he's often on the golf course.
Yeah, but he is a former president, obviously. But in the wake of the Me Too movement, does it change the perspective when it comes to Bill Clinton?
Listen, as I said, I'll let Bill Clinton defend himself, and I'll let him make his remarks tonight, and I'll be listening. But I will tell you that we have a lot of work to do in this country.
Well, Senator, we appreciate your time, and thanks for your service to the country.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.